Hey everybody, welcome back to Art by Galen. I'm Galen Eilenfeld, and today I've got something a little different for you. I'm going to take you on my very first ever sketchbook tour from a book that I started drawing in when I was probably about 12 years old and drew in it until I was about maybe 15. It's not the most comfortable thing that I'm going to do, but let's dive into it and we'll see some of the scary things I drew back when I was a kid. This is a sketchbook that I had from, I think, eighth grade and maybe ninth and 10th, or at least eighth and ninth. So this would put this book probably somewhere between 1993 and maybe 95 or 6 at the most. It's going to be a little crazy going through some of this. Yeah, as you can see, it's a very old book. It's got some discoloration going on. But hey, it came with some free drawing tips inside. So let's check that out. Let's see what those tips were. Pick a pencil, know your pencils, get to the point, so to sharpen your pencils, and hold it right. Hey, that's all you need. There's your drawing tips. So I was very into The Lion King when it came out. I probably watched it a few times a week at that point. I was also very into like the Mortal Kombat video games, as you will soon see. Um, and I believe this was well after Mortal Kombat 2 had come out, but the third one had been announced but not out yet. So here we've got that, my interpretation of that famous scene where Rafiki backhanded the hyena. And yeah, God, it's so crazy looking back at this stuff because I'm just like, man, it's I want to say it's embarrassing, but it's not. Like I remember doing this stuff, it's just a starting stage. This was before I knew I loved art, but I hadn't decided that I wanted to do it, as a job yet. So all of this is just stuff that I drew for fun. Beavis and Butthead, and I was also into martial arts back then, so I don't know exactly what motivated me to draw these, but anyway, yeah, I wish you guys could see my face right now because I'm probably as red as the red in this guy's outfit. Now, this was, again, before Mortal Kombat 3 had come out. And so this was an original character that I made called Lava. And check this dude's elbows out. Like, what is going on here? I think he might want to go get some X-rays done and see what's going on. But yeah, but definitely before any kind of anatomy studies had ever been done. And so we've got lots and lots of Mortal Kombat characters. Again, with these elbows, I don't know what to say about these things. I figure it's probably like I spotted that little bulge, like the detail in some other art that I liked, and I was like, oh, cool, that's how you make the elbow. And so I just made it, but exaggerated it way too much. And then we've got Liu Kang, and a very, very bad drawing of the Mortal Kombat 3 logo. Let's see. I think I was trying to design some kind of a pedal car, even though I think they already existed, so it was kind of pointless. Anyway, uh, this one, this one I think I had some sort of a catalog from one of my martial arts classes, like where you could order clothes and supplies and practice weapons and things like that. And I think I remember drawing this from one of the photos in that, and that's why the detail in the folds and things are more realistic. The one thing I can tell that I really missed on was the size of the hands. Like this one looks okay, but that one is super tiny. Like that entire hand is as big as the palm of this one. Anyway, uh, this was kind of some of my boredom doodles. I'm sure you've probably seen stuff like this where you draw, two perpendicular lines and then just make marks every quarter inch or every eighth of an inch or whatever, and then start at the end of one and the first of another and just draw straight lines, and eventually you'll end up with something like that. We've got more Mortal Kombat. Um, it's fair to say I was pretty obsessed with playing this game when I was a kid. particularly because it was one of the only games that I had. So we've got the Shang Tsung character. He's the one that could turn into different people. Um, and so he was an older person in the first game. They made him younger in the second one, and then this was based on some concept art I think that they showed before the third one came out. And so I tried to make it like, here's the second one, the one that I played as the most, and then the kind of ghost of past and future. And then this one is, I remember this one vividly. We have Mortal Kombat and The Lion King. Yeah, that's yeah. I don't even know what to say. I have no words. Shang, Simba, and Sub-Skaro. Let's see. More fictitious Mortal Kombat with some crazy elbows and crazy anatomy going on. I feel like I was probably looking at a comic book or something and trying to replicate the anatomy from that, and it was bad. The anatomy in the comic was probably bad, and I made it worse by trying to copy it and having no understanding of it. But it's still neat. Like, I was probably 12 or 13 years old when I drew this. There's my character Lava again, but with a jet-powered surfboard. More Mortal Kombat characters. And you can tell, like, I had a reference for the face, but the rest of it I made up. So I may have had a reference for the upper body here, but I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't look like I did, but I might have. Anyway, here we've got, and I don't know what happened to this book. It's old. There's a lot of discoloration happening in it. It looks like something might have gotten into it. Here we've got like a Native American sort of character. Here we've got a rollerblading character with a broken spine. If you look at the way he's all twisted up. Yeah, I've never been great at doing technical things, especially like blueprint style stuff. Like I've always wanted to be, but it's not something that I'm strong at. And this was one of the very early attempts at doing anything even remotely technical. Okay. And here we've got, Scorpion and Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat again. But let's see, this was done in 1995, so I wasn't quite 13 yet. I would have been almost 13. But these characters are very recognizably ripped off from some Rob Liefeld characters in some of his comics from the 90s. And there was another popular show called Gargoyles. I tried to draw, but I was very unhappy with the shape of his wings, and I think I gave up at that point. Oh yeah, there was a movie with Sylvester Stallone called Demolition Man, and I loved that movie. And so I was trying to draw him, but then I gave up on this one as well after, like, I drew in the arm, and it looked so much like a little baby arm. And yeah, like I was real happy with how the face turned out, but I was so disappointed with how the arm looked that I just stopped. It's a demonstration of like why it's worth just starting over. That way you can complete it, instead of like, this is one of those cases where fear took over and I said, all right, never mind. These characters, I want to say, were from a PlayStation 1 fighting game, a Battle Arena. I think it was Battle Arena Toshinden is what it was called. I'm not sure. I can't remember their names at all. But anyway, Earthworm Jim, still one of my favorite characters. I'm actually still pretty proud of that one. That one turned out all right for 12 years old. Maybe 13 at this point. I don't know what the time was in between those. This one was playing with some colored pencils. It looks like those T-shirts that you could buy in like truck stops and gas stations in the 90s all over the place. Like they always had lightning or wolves or something like that on it. Some random kind of cat face. Killer Instinct. This was, I think there was some art in the booklet that came with the game that I was looking at, and I was copying this part of it. Or I may have got that from something else. I don't know. But there was a character that could charge and turn into a cat, and then there was another one that was a boxer. And I can't remember their names. If you can remember their names from Killer Instinct, leave a comment below. Remind me who they are. Let's see. Here's another one of those geometric patterns that I started. Let's see. An eyeball. Another native character. No idea. Probably a boredom drawing. And there's another. I think this is about the time. Somewhere within this book, and I'm getting a little into personal stuff here, but it's somewhere within this book I was diagnosed with depression, and I've dealt with it ever since. But you can kind of see it start to emerge in my work, starting here and over the next couple of years. This was going to be. I think I was looking at like a pet food thing for hamsters, and I just never finished it. And this next one is very, very embarrassing. I hate this so much because it actually did exist. Me with a very, very bad haircut. This was February of '96, so I would have been 14. With a terrible haircut. Thankfully, I can say it didn't last long. I did not keep it. But anyway, this had to be when I started high school. This is a comic book character. I cannot remember who it was, but my high school mascot was the Mason City Mohawks, and because I lived in Mason City, Iowa, and I remember drawing this because I was like, "Oh, cool, Mohawk." I was playing with some pastels, going for that kind of epic Lion King vibe, but didn't really achieve it. Face practicing is what I wrote in the corner, doing mouths and an eye or two. Here's that classic, I drew one eye perfect, the other one sucked, so I scribbled it out. Drop me a comment if this has happened to you before. You can't get that other eye right. Let's see, that was... I remember that I was going to make this some kind of a vampire character, but it just never happened. This was a bird bath that we went on some kind of trip to another state to visit some family members, and I was very bored, but I had my sketchbook, and so I was sitting outside and I drew the bird bath that they had. If you haven't figured out yet, you may have seen this name in some of these pages. My nickname as a kid was Bear. My nickname stuck with me a little bit into adulthood, but not for very, very long. I think the only person that the only people that call me that would be like my mom and my brother and sisters. But anyways, this I think was something similar. My brother had gotten a tattoo, and this was when I started first getting interested in tattoos, and he had a Grim Reaper. And I was trying to sort of replicate that. Playing around with a logo for a friend's band. They were called The Matrix, and this was long before the Matrix movies ever came out. But I had done this, and they actually used it for a little while, which was pretty cool. You know, because when you're a teenager and you do something like that, it feels pretty awesome. This was a blatant ripoff of... there used to be these comics called The Far Side, and they were normally just little one-panel or one-page comics that were just incredibly funny and sarcastic or ironic. It just was one of my favorite things back then. But this is exactly one of their comics. It's just I drew it in my own way. It says, now here's the author of Mind Over Matter, and he's like walking on stage but into a pole. But yeah, blatant ripoff. I'm not proud of it. This is typical 90s stuff. I think every one of us owned one of these hats at some point back then if you were in high school in the late 90s. Here we've got like a Marvin the Martian, and then kind of a jacked Marvin the Martian. No idea why this happened. I can't remember. But it happened. And then we've got a Yosemite Sam. And me being the moody teenager. Why do we fear? These were interesting. These were, my nephew and I, we would sit down and have like stick figure wars. I can't remember the rules or how this happened, but we did, yeah, we did this quite a bit. This was a attempt at drawing a portrait of Sandra Bullock. Okay, so we're into 97. I know I had other sketchbooks by this point, but I guess I came back to this one and tried to draw on it some more. I think this was around when like Practical Magic came out, which was a good movie. I enjoyed it back then. But anyway, so there's that. I think this was supposed to be like Marilyn Manson or something like that. I guess a pirate. Again, with no anatomical studies being done. It's painful to look back at this because I'm just like, oh God, everything is so off. But I think the rest of this book is not my stuff. I think it's my nephew's or my niece. Yeah. So I want to thank you for taking this dive through memory lane with me. It's definitely a little bit embarrassing, but I also am trying to not be embarrassed about it because I know that it can be very intimidating when you're first starting out and you compare your work to people who have been drawing for years and years and years, and or people who have just put in tons of time, you know, and it's difficult if you compare your work when you're just starting to that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to do this partly just to do it because it's fun, but also I wanted to do it as an example that nobody starts off doing anything even remotely good. Like this, it might be cute, it might be kind of funny, but it's not like it's not technically good in any kind of standards as far as art fundamentals or anything like that. But it's the kind of stuff that you have to do in order to grow. It's the kind of stuff you have to get out all of that stuff. You have to get out all the, not necessarily bad ideas, but bad executions. Like you have to go through all these things and make those mistakes and learn from them. And every time you do, you get a little bit better. But anyhow, let me know down in the comments below if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you'd like to see more sketchbook tours because I have probably a stack about this high of old sketchbooks that we could flip through, ranging from when I was about 15 to probably my early to mid 20s. But yeah, so, you know, like I said, let me know down below if you'd like to see more of this type of content. Anyhow, that's all for now. I hope you have a fantastic day. And until next time, keep creating and take care.